Real estate is something that we're going to be focusing on right now. It's an asset class that Indians love almost as much as gold, and it is the objective of many an Indian as soon as they start working to acquire their own piece of real estate. Most of the time, it is something that they live in. Now, if there's one asset class that has surprised quite a few people over the course of the last 2 years with the disruption that COVID-19 caused, it is residential real estate, because despite the issues that have been caused in terms of loss of income, in terms of the uncertainty, people have gone out and bought houses in a way that they haven't in the last 5 or 6 years. Joining me now to talk about the latest trends and what happened in the second half of 2021 is Rajani Sinha, who is a Chief Economist and National Director Research at Knight Frank India. Thank you so much, Rajani, for taking the time, as you always do. Let's start with the trends that you're witnessing in terms of new launches, because I think that's a big talking point in the residential space. We'll talk about the residential space first, and then we'll focus in on commercial. In residential, signs are looking good.
Yes, like you said, Alex, residential real estate sector has actually been performing very well during this pandemic, and it has taken everyone by surprise. In fact, the pandemic has kind of accelerated growth in the sector. One reason could be that during the pandemic, people are actually feeling the need for bigger and better houses, and they've been upgrading their house. And combined with that, we have had like all-time low interest rates. Prices had been falling even before the pandemic, and then during the pandemic there was some more fall in prices. So because of all these reasons, and to add to that the state government stimulus measures, we have had stamp duty cut in Maharashtra, in Karnataka, and right now in Bengal. So all these reasons have together contributed to a kind of a turnaround in the residential real estate sector.
Okay, let's speak about this in more detail though, Rajani. In your report, you've spoken about the number of new launches, and the kind of rise is absolutely substantial. Perhaps also one must take it with a bit of a pinch of salt, because you're comparing it with the first wave of COVID-19, right? So how do you see this? What are the numbers telling you?
So, Alex, launches have shown a good growth, and that's broadly in line with the kind of growth we have seen in sales. So, just to throw some numbers, residential sales we've seen in 2021 has grown by around 51% on a YOY basis. And it has gone in terms of absolute value, if I look at it, it's quite close to what the number we had in 2019, the pre-pandemic sales. So I guess the launches are also broadly in line with the kind of demand that we are seeing in the market. Developers do not want to lose on this opportunity, and with good demand in the market, we are seeing new launches also coming up. There's also one feeling in the market amongst the buyers that they're not sure for how long this party is going to last, because there is expectation of prices increasing, there is expectation of interest rate increasing in this year. That's also a reason why many of the fence sitters, home buyers, are jumping into the market. And the developers too want to take advantage of this situation, this win-win situation currently. And hence we are seeing a sharp spurt in launches too, broadly in line with the demand growth in the market.
Yeah, you know what, Rajni, just before I'm having this conversation with you, we did speak about interest rates. And that is something that is going to determine interest for buying houses as well. With that in mind, I also want to talk about certain pockets. What pockets, according to you, were the hottest to look at in the second half of 2021? Did one stand out?
So in terms of residential, what we saw was that there was good growth all across the top 8 cities, that we track. But specifically, I will highlight that Hyderabad has been seeing very robust growth. So in whole of 2021, we have seen more than 140% YOY growth in Hyderabad. Even some of the other markets like NCR, Bengaluru, they have all seen around 60% YOY growth. So while across markets there has been good growth, I will specifically highlight Hyderabad as a market which is looking very promising right now.
My last question on residential. What is the information that you found out in terms of price increases across the board? If you can quantify that for us, and what are your expectations for this year in terms of price increases?
So, Alex, interestingly, what we saw is that prices that had been before the pandemic also, we had seen the residential prices had been falling. During the pandemic also, initially we saw the prices falling. But what we have seen in the last few months is that prices have stabilized. And in fact, in some of the southern cities like Hyderabad, Chennai, Bengaluru, in fact, we have seen marginal price increases in the range of 5 to 7%. Going forward for 2022, also we are expecting prices to increase, but a very marginal increase in price around again 5 to 7% or so. We do not see a big jump in prices happening because in Indian market, like we have been emphasizing, there are mainly end users in the market currently. So, globally what we have been seeing in terms of sharp increase in prices happening along with sales, we do not see that something like that happening in Indian market. I think in Indian market, it's going to be a more gradual increase, probably around 5 to 7%, as the developers also would like to pass on this increase in, labor cost, raw material cost, a lot of other price increases that has happened in the last 1 year or so. With good demand in the economy and in the housing market, the developers would try to pass on some of this price increase to the end users.
Absolutely. Rajani, let's also touch base on the commercial side, because that, from your report, you said that it was a mixed bag. Why is that?
So, commercial real estate sector, as we are all aware, was more hit by the pandemic than the residential, because with all the people moving to work from home, and specifically the IT sector, which is a big office occupier, moving to work from home, the office demand was impacted. However, what we saw that for the full year, 2021, we saw office demand of around 38 million square feet, which is broadly in line with what we had seen in 2020, but still much lower than around 60 million square feet that we had in 2019. So what we are seeing in office market is that though the segment is improving, specifically what we saw in the second half of 2021, but it's still much lower than what we had seen at the peak of the segment before the pandemic, which is 2019.
And specifically on the hybrid model, which I think has picked up over the course of this pandemic, are you seeing increased adoption of that?
Yes, definitely. We are seeing increased adoption of hybrid model. And in fact, another thing I would like to highlight is that we are also seeing increased preference for flexibility by the occupiers. So if this office demand transactions that I spoke about, the 38 million square feet, if I break it into different user categories, what we find is that the co-working segment, which offers more flexibility, that has seen a significant increase in its share in total office transactions. So co-working, which earlier used to have a share of around 10 to 12% or so in total office transactions, what we saw that in the second half of 2021, their share has increased to around 18% or so. And that's mainly because in this whole period of pandemic and uncertainty, people are preferring the flexibility offered by the co-working segment.
All right. Rajani, thank you so much for joining in and for telling us about the trends that are currently visible in the real estate space. We'll be touching base with you really soon, I'm sure.
Thank you.